Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. If you're gearing up for your AN 217 anthropology exam, you are in the exact right place. Consider this your ultimate visual cheat sheet. We're going to take all those dense chapters, theories, and concepts, and we're going to transform them into a clear, structured guide that will help you completely master the material.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Are you ready to ace your exam? Our content today is totally grounded in the authoritative text, Conrad Philip Kottak's Mirror for Humanity. We are extracting the absolute essentials from this book and mapping them out so they stick right in your brain.
Here's our game plan for the review. First, basics and the psychoanalytic view. Second, colonialism and core concepts. Third, groups, politics, and economics. And fourth, language and religion.
All right, starting with Section 1, Basics and the Psychoanalytic View.
So, first things first, what exactly are we studying here? Well, anthropology is the holistic study of humans, past and present. It looks at our biology, culture, language, and history to understand both what makes us all the same and what makes us so beautifully diverse. Now, notice how cultural anthropology stands out as the largest subfield. It specifically focuses on living cultures, learned behaviors, and social organizations. And the main way anthropologists do this is through ethnography. Basically, that means immersive fieldwork where you actually go live within a community to observe their daily life from the inside. To really grasp the whole scope of the discipline, you absolutely need to know the four subfields. Number 1, biological or physical anthropology, which looks at human evolution and genetics. Number 2, archaeology, studying past societies by digging up their material remains. Number 3, linguistic anthropology, which analyzes language and communication. And number 4, like we just talked about, cultural anthropology. All four of these fields are constantly interacting to give us a complete picture of humanity. Okay, so that's the what. But let's move to a pretty fascinating psychological theory. Have you ever wondered how human societies avoid just descending into total chaos, given our natural impulses? Well, this brings us directly to Freud's psychoanalytic view of culture. The big keyword you need here is sublimation. The psychoanalytic view basically says that humans have these raw, natural instincts, desire and aggression, that could literally destroy society if we left them unchecked. But instead of just pushing them down and repressing them, culture acts as a bridge. It channels or sublimates these instincts into socially acceptable, even productive forms. For instance, aggression might get redirected into competitive sports or warfare rituals. I mean, just think about how intense a football game gets, right? Or sexual desire might be codified through marriage norms or expressed safely through art and literature. In simple terms, society gives us a safe, structured way to turn our raw instincts into social order.
Moving right along to Section 2, Colonialism and Core Concepts.
Look, to understand anthropology, we have to talk honestly about its origins, which are deeply tied to the 19th century colonial period. Back then, European powers literally used anthropology to study colonized societies so they could figure out how to govern, tax, and control them. Early anthropologists ranked societies using evolutionary frameworks, which, unfortunately, justified imperial rule by othering local populations. But thankfully, modern anthropology operates completely differently. Today, it's highly reflexive, collaborative, and heavily focused on informed consent and human rights. It's actively working to examine its history and decolonize its methods.
All right, let's hit some absolutely crucial core concepts. First up is holism. Holism is all about seeing the big picture. It means studying the whole human experience as a set of deeply interconnected parts. You can't just study marriage in a vacuum, right? You have to look at how religion, economics, and the broader social structure all impact that marriage system. You literally have to understand the whole machine to understand how one gear works.
Next up is the biggest concept of all, culture. Culture is defined as the learned, shared, and integrated patterns of behavior, beliefs, symbols, and norms of a specific group. Now highlight the word learned in your notes. Culture isn't biological, it is transmitted, and it is incredibly adaptable. Think about McDonald's. It's an American fast food chain, sure, but it adapts its menu all over the globe to fit local tastes and norms. Culture isn't just a list of stuff we do. It's our core identity and a highly dynamic tool for human survival.
Now, I guarantee you're going to be tested on how different cultures interact with each other. So I've got a super handy memory trick for you. Just remember, AAE.
Let's break down that AAE. The first A is assimilation. This means to lose. This happens when a minority group fully absorbs the dominant culture, and in the process they lose their own distinct practices, like early immigrants losing their native language. The second A is acculturation. This means to exchange. Two cultures influence each other to create a blend. Think of fusion cuisine, or totally bilingual communities. And the E is enculturation. This means to learn. It is simply the lifelong process of learning your very own culture from the time you're a kid. So remember, assimilation is to lose, acculturation is to exchange, enculturation is to learn.
Here's another crucial distinction for your exam: the emic versus the etic approaches to research. And yep, I've got another memory trick for you. Emic equals inside, etic equals external. The emic approach relies totally on the insider perspective. How do the actual members of a culture view their own beliefs and local meanings? The etic approach is the outsider perspective. That's the objective, comparative, scientific analysis applied by the anthropologists themselves. Truly good research balances both. Rounding out these core concepts, we have ethnocentrism and cultural relativism. Ethnocentrism is the bias of viewing your own culture as superior and basically judging everyone else by your own cultural standards. Cultural relativism is the exact opposite. It's the practice of judging a culture strictly by its own standards and within its own specific context, totally avoiding external judgment. Relativism is a massive, absolutely essential methodological tool. It allows modern anthropologists to truly understand why societies do what they do, making sure our own biases don't blind us to the truth.
All right, Section 3, Groups, Politics, and Economics.
So, how are we actually organized on the ground? Well, society is organized into groups. Kinship defines our relationships through blood, marriage, or adoption. Descent tracks those relationships, whether that's patrilineal down the father's line, matrilineal down the mother's, or bilateral through both. Marriage is there to regulate alliances and childbearing and can take forms like monogamy, polygyny, or polyandry. And definitely don't mix up a family, which is based on kinship, with a household, which is simply the residential unit where economic production and childbearing actually happen. And, this is a super fascinating point from the textbook, even concepts like mental illness are completely framed by these local group norms. Behaviors that are labeled deviant or sick in one society might be perfectly normal or even spiritually significant in another. It really is all about cultural context.
Now, as populations grow, political complexity scales up to manage social control. Political systems generally fall into four main categories. First up, bands. These are small, egalitarian foraging groups with basically no formal leaders. Second, tribes, slightly larger cultivator societies that might have a village head. Third, chiefdoms. This is where we start seeing formal status systems and real social stratification. And finally, states, highly complex systems with formal judiciaries, serious law enforcement, and fiscal support. You know, taxes.
And just as political systems scale up, economic systems do too. Anthropologists track exactly how humans produce and distribute resources to survive. We start with foraging, so hunting and gathering. Then we scale up to horticulture, which is just simple, non-continuous cultivation. If a society relies mostly on herding animals, that is pastoralism. Agriculture steps it way up with intensive, continuous farming. And finally, market economies, where we rely on buying and selling using currency. Knowing these 5 steps, that's going to guarantee you some easy points on the exam.
And finally, we've made it to Section 4, Language and Religion.
When we talk about linguistic anthropology, there's one major theory you absolutely, 100% must know: the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. This is the idea that the specific language you speak actually influences how you think and how you perceive reality itself. For example, if a culture's language has dozens of specific words to describe different shades of the color blue, speakers of that language will actually perceive variations in the color blue differently than someone whose language only has one word for it. Pretty mind-blowing, right? Our language literally shapes our worldview.
Last major topic, religion. Now, anthropologists aren't here to prove or disprove anyone's faith. They study how religion functions within a society. Religion provides solace when times are incredibly uncertain. It enforces morality and social control through beliefs in things like karma, destiny, or taboos. It creates powerful social unity through shared rituals like rites of passage. And here's an interesting one. During times of massive social change or extreme cultural stress, we often see what's called a revitalization movement, where a society actually uses new religious beliefs to build a more satisfying culture.
All right, we've covered the whole shebang: the basics, the core concepts, the political structures, and the belief systems. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a really provocative thought, one that actually shows up a lot on final exams. Praxis theory tells us that yes, we are enculturated into a system, but we also have agency. So think about this. Are we simply products of our culture, just blindly following a computer program? Or do our individual day-to-day actions constantly rewrite and reshape the very cultural rules we live by? Keep that question in mind as you review your notes. You now have a complete, solid overview of ANT 217. Go out there, review these visual concepts, and absolutely crush your exam. Good luck!